Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Truth on the Tracks. I'm Brandon Turbeville. For those of you who are new to the show, you can catch Truth on the Tracks here every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the rebroadcast here on ucy.tv. And you can access the show's personal page at ucy.tv/TT. If you are coming to the show as a result of some of the flyers that have been posted around about the PD region here in South Carolina, if you found the relevant websites and found this show as a result, then a special welcome to you. We're going to talk about, usually what I do with this show, though, is I usually talk about some of the news and information that I've been covering recently that's been of particular interest to me, but I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to go into a more historical background setting. But again, for those of you who are new to the show and are new to me, I also want to bring to your attention that I am a staff writer for activistpost.com. Again, that's activistpost.com, and you can go to that website if you want to keep up with my work as it comes out in real time there on that website. Lots of other good stuff there as well. Lots of news is updated daily and nightly. And if you want to look at the articles that I've done recently, just go to the Contributors tab, click on that, find the staff writers. You'll find my name and some links to recent articles there. You can also click on my name and you can find my Activist Post archive page there. I'm also the author of 4 books, which you can find at falseflagpublications.blogspot.com, or search the titles of the book at thebookpatch.com. Either way, you can find the books there and you can purchase them there. That's how you can support me. I'm hoping to have book number 5 out, a second volume of the collection of articles, out in the near future. That's been pushed back due to recent events, but hopefully that'll be out sooner rather than later. You can also go, if you're interested in my work specifically, to brandonturbeville.blogspot.com, and that's the website where I repost all of my articles after they've been published on Activist Post, where I repost all of the interviews that I do and all of the archived versions, the YouTube versions of this show, and that is where you could go for all of that and all of that relevant information, all of the extra relevant information there. We made some updates to the site and hopefully have improved the site, made it easier to find the important information there. So I encourage you to go check that out and make use of that and see what you can find in regards to my work there. Now again, what I usually try to do with this show is go over some of the news and information that I've been paying to specifically, that I've been working on, that I've been writing about, that I've been covering, and bring that to your attention in hopes that you can bring that out to the attention of others. But I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight. And again, for those of you who have just joined us for the first time as a result of the flyers, then I encourage you to check out the relevant websites on those flyers. Of course, activistpost.com, my website, brandonturbeville.blogspot.com, but I've also recommended other websites too. I recommended prisonplanet.com. It's one of the bigger websites out there. Alan Watts, cuttingthroughthematrix.com, where he goes into some of the history, the ancient history of the religions and the mystery religions and the guiding forces behind our matrix-based reality. I encourage you to go down to his website and download a lot of the talks that he's done. You can burn them onto CD, you can put them on your iPod and listen to them at your convenience. I highly encourage you to do that. Of course, there's davidike.com, tarpley.net as well, that I encourage you to go to. inthelie.com is a very good website as well. And of course, lots of information here on the radio shows at ucy.tv. We're growing here at this network every day, so I encourage you to continue to check out some of the other shows that are on this network. Now, as I said, I was going to do something different. I was going to go into a more historical conversation a more historical document, I would suppose you could call it, and it's related to Albert Pike. And for those of you who don't know, Albert Pike is considered the Pope of modern Freemasonry. Albert Pike was a Confederate general during the Civil War, but he was instrumental in building and not just establishing, but well, not really establishing, but furthering and developing the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry here in the United States. Of course, he was also heavily involved in Canada and in England as well. So, you should go check up on Albert Pike. Of course, it was Albert Pike, who I've referenced in the past, who wrote the famous letter to Mazzini, the British agent, the British destabilization agent. Pike wrote a letter to him and described the coming Third World War. Actually, he described the coming First, Second, and Third World War, and he was accurate with the First and Second. He stated that the Third World War would occur in the Middle East. It would pit the Muslims against the Zionists, the Christians coming to the aid of the Zionists, and then a terrible world war would ensue where the nihilists would be unleashed and religion finally destroyed and replaced with a new one. So that's something interesting to check out. But what I find a lot of people are very interested in a lot of times is the idea of Freemasonry and what it means and the role that it plays. And so many people are either on one end of the spectrum, perhaps going too far. One end blames every single bad thing in the world that happens on Freemasonry, and the other side of the spectrum tends to believe that it's harmless, that there's nothing to it, that it's just a group of concerned citizens who want to be present in their community and see positive change in their community. And unfortunately, neither of these are true. I should say that to say that Freemasonry is responsible for all of the things that are going on in the world, Freemasonry should be recognized as nothing more than one of the many secret societies that exist in the world, that exist as a cover for another religion, a more ancient religion that certainly predates Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Even Judaism, it predates this religion. It's the religion on which all of the carbon copy, or maybe not carbon copy, but counterfeit copy religions have been given certain aspects of, in order to continue a philosophy that actually contains part of the truth, but obscures most of it. That's what Freemasonry is. Of course, a lot of the Freemasons who are in it, this does not mean that all the Freemasons who are in it, that every single one of them are complicit or that are knowingly part of conspiracy. In fact, quite the opposite. Most of the Freemasons don't know that they're part of any sort of agenda. They really think that they've joined a boys' club where they go out and make positive changes in their community and get drunk once a month or so at the local Mason Lodge. In fact, you probably know a lot of Masons yourself. You might not even know that they're Masons. You might even be a Mason. But the fact is, some of them are very good people. Some of them are very well-meaning. Some of them are great people, in fact, but they've been led into this cult of Freemasonry here. And of course, it goes up to the 33rd degree is allegedly the highest degree, but of course it doesn't go just up to the 33rd degree. There's actually 360 degrees in Freemasonry, but you won't be told that even if you join the lodge, now will you? The old adage is life begins at 40, right? Well, life begins at 40, and so does Freemasonry. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to go through. Albert Pike has written several books that are available, and sometimes you can get them at high cost. You can go look up Albert Pike and find books like Morals and Dogma, which we'll be talking about tonight. You can find these books. Sometimes you can find them for $7-8. Sometimes you can find them for
$150. So it's kind of the luck of the draw. If you find them in an old bookstore, then nab them up. If you go to online websites like Amazon, then sometimes you can get a good deal, sometimes not. So we're going to be talking tonight about Morals and Dogma of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. This is going to deal with the first 3 degrees. Now, there are some things that you need to remember as we talk about Freemasonry, and as we read Albert Pike and comment on it regarding to the first 3 degrees. The first 3 degrees are virtually an initiation. You learn nothing in the first 3 degrees. The first 3 degrees are generally where anyone who joins the Mason Lodge can get up to the first 3 degrees, and you can become a Master Mason at that point. But that doesn't mean that you even have a shred of the knowledge of the secret knowledge that's touted by Freemasons. You see, as you move up, as you move deeper, it sounds like a contradiction, but as you move up in the degrees and you move deeper into Freemasonry, as above, so below, then you'll realize that you'll receive more and more information, and the things that you were told to get you into the lodge begin to fall apart at the seams. That it's not exactly the what you were told. Many people are told that if you're Christian, I've heard individuals say, well, if you're Christian, then you'll have nothing stopping you from joining Freemasonry. It's all based on the Bible. It's all based on Christianity. Well, this is what they tell people to recruit them in when they try to recruit them in, so they won't feel threatened, so their religion won't feel threatened. But the fact is, as you move up, you find out that Christianity really has nothing to do with it, that Freemasonry, the religion of Freemasonry, vastly outdates Christianity, and some of the principles that you had believed or espoused in Christianity are replaced with other beliefs, the secret knowledge, as you leave the realm of the profane into the realm of the more enlightened or illuminated ones. So bear that in mind when I read this, these quotes from Pike's Morals and Dogma. Is that Morals and Dogma is essentially an old school version of the Freemason Handbook. This is a book that was actually given out to first 3 degree Masons when they joined the lodge, or when they had proved themselves in a lodge. They could get this book. And you have to understand that while reading this book does give some level of inside information of Freemasonry, it also is designed to keep information secret from the new Masons as well, because this is only the first 3 degrees. You can't let all of the secrets slip through in the first 3 degrees. You can't just give these guys a book to read. They have to go up through the degrees. They have to go through these various rituals on the way. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And why don't we just jump on in here. Again, this is Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, First 3 Degrees. And my copy is from Martino Publishing in 2011. But I'm sure you can find other copies there on the web, and I encourage you to do that before these books start to disappear. My book also has a post or prescript that says, "Esoteric book for Scottish Rite use only, to be returned upon withdrawal or death of recipient." But I have a copy. And let's see what we've got here. Actually, why don't we start at the beginning? I want to go through the preface here. So, this is: the following work has been prepared by authority of the Supreme Council of the 33rd Degree for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States by the Grand Commander, and is now published by its direction. It contains the lectures of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite in that jurisdiction, and is specially intended to be read and studied by the brethren of that obedience in connection with the rituals of the degrees. It is hoped and expected that each will furnish himself with a copy and make himself familiar with it, for which purpose, as the cost of the work consists entirely in the printing and binding, it will be furnished at a price as moderate as possible.
no individual will receive pecuniary profit from it except the agents for its sale. It has been copyrighted to prevent its republication elsewhere, and the copyright, like those of all the other works prepared for the Supreme Council, has been assigned to trustees for that body. Whatever profits may accrue from it will be devoted to purposes of charity. The brethren of the Rite in the United States and Canada will be afforded the opportunity to purchase it, nor is it forbidden that other Masons shall, but they will not be solicited to do so. In preparing this work, the Grand Commander has been about equally author and compiler, since he has extracted quite half its contents from the works of the best writers and most philosophic or eloquent thinkers. Perhaps it would have been better and more acceptable if he had extracted more and written less. Still, perhaps half of it his own, and incorporating here the thoughts and words of others, he has continually changed and added to the language, often intermingling in the same sentences his own words with theirs. Yeah, see, he can do that again, because Freemasonry was certainly not started in the 1800s when Pike was writing. This is very old, and he's simply pulling on the information of others who are already out there, who are already doing essentially what Pike is doing now. So he can pull from their work, and it just blends seamlessly with it. It is not being intended for the world at large. He has felt at liberty to make from all accessible sources a compendium of the morals and dogma of the Rite, to remold sentences, change and add to words and phrases, combine them with his own, and use them as if they were his own, to be dealt with at his pleasure, and so availed of as to make the whole most valuable for the purposes intended. He claims, therefore, little of the merit of authorship, and does not care to distinguish his own from that which he has taken from other sources, being quite willing that every portion of the book, in turn, may be regarded as borrowed from some old and better writer. The teachings of these readings are not sacramental, so far as they go beyond the realm of morality into those of other domains of thought and truth. Again, the teachings of these readings are not sacramental, so far as they go beyond the realm of morality into those of other domains of thought and truth. Now, bear in mind here, as I read this, I can't. There's a lot of symbolism in the book, because there's a lot of symbolism in Freemasonry, obviously. And I can't show you the pictures because this is radio. I can't show you the symbols. So some of them I'll perhaps try to describe to you. But it's important to understand too that if you read this, words like morality, thought, truth, these words are capitalized to give them extra meaning, to give them power, in order to give stress to the word. In other words, this is not morality with a little m, as the little people would distinguish it. This is morality with a capital M. This is morality in the most powerful sense. This is thought. This is truth. It is the thought, the truth, the morality. All right. The ancient and accepted Scottish Rite uses the word dogma in its true sense of doctrine or teaching, and is not dogmatic in the odious sense of that term. Everyone is entirely free to reject and dissent from whatever herein may seem to him to be untrue or unsound. It is only required of him that he shall weigh what is taught and give it fair hearing and unprejudiced judgment. Of course, the ancient theosophic and philosophic speculations are not embodied as part of the doctrines of the Rite, but because it is of interest and profit to know what the ancient intellect thought upon these subjects, and because nothing so conclusively proves the radical difference between our human and the animal nature as the capacity of the human mind to entertain such speculations in regard to itself and the Deity. But as to these opinions themselves, we may say, in the words of the learned canonist Ludovicius Gomez, there's a Latin phrase here, but I don't know what that is. Perhaps we can Google Translate. Of course, with the internet connection that I have, that's going to be virtually impossible to do that during the radio show. But it says something. If I can try and break this down to the extent of opinions change according to the times, and differ accordingly, essentially is the gist of that quote.
change and differ accordingly, I think. I wish I could do a better job of that, but again, thanks to having internet from HughesNet, you virtually can't use the internet at all, except unless you want to get on Tracebook and tell the NSA what you're doing. Titles of degrees as herein given have in some instances been changed. Well, we're going to get into the titles of the degrees. So before we do, it's important to notice what Pike says here. It's when he talks about the ancient theosophic and philosophic speculations, not embodied as part of the doctrines of the Rite. It's not of interest and profit to know what the ancient intellect thought upon these subjects, because nothing so conclusively proves the radical difference between our human and the animal nature as the capacity of the human mind to entertain such speculations in regard to itself and the deity. Essentially, for the first 3 degrees, he's saying, don't worry about the ancient philosophic speculations. They're not part of the doctrines of the Rite. Well, not yet, because you're only in the first 3 degrees. It's been said before that the higher Masons laugh at the lower Masons because the lower Masons have no idea what they're even involved with. But this is where we can look at the titles of the degrees, right? We go up to 32 degrees, which he mentions here. Doesn't mention the 33rd, but first degree is the Apprentice. The second degree is the Fellowcraft. Third degree is the Master. Fourth degree, Secret Master. Fifth degree, Perfect Master. Sixth degree, Intimate Secretary. Seventh degree is Provost and Judge. The 8th degree is Intendant of the Building. 9th degree is Elu of the 9. 10th degree is Elu of the 15. 11th degree is Elu of the 12. 12th degree is Master Architect. 13th degree is Royal Arch of Solomon. 14th degree is Perfect Elu. 15th degree Knight of the East. 16th degree Prince of Jerusalem. 17th degree Knight of the East and West. 18th degree Knight Rose Croix. Okay, that's Rosicrucian, right? Rose Croix, C-R-O-I-X, right? That's Croix, I believe that's pronounced that way. That's cross. You have the Knight Rose Cross, Rosicrucian. That's Rosicrucian. 19th degree Pontiff. 20th degree Master of the Symbolic Lodge. 21st degree Noachite or Prussian Knight. 22nd degree Knight of the Royal Axe or Prince of Libanus. 23rd degree Chief of the Tabernacle. 24th degree Prince of the Tabernacle. 25th degree Knight of the Brazen Serpent. 26th degree Prince of Mercy. 27th degree Knight Commander of the Temple. 28th degree Knight of the Sun or Prince Adept. 29th degree Scottish Knight of St. Andrew. 30th degree Knight Kadosh. 31st degree Inspector Inquisitor. And the 32nd degree Master of the Royal Secret. Now, again, we're only going to be talking about the first 3 degrees here in this book because that's all that Albert Pike addressed. And again, as we go through this, try to read in between the lines and understand that while Pike is revealing some information, he is not revealing all of it. He's just revealing information for the first 3 degrees. So try to read between the lines in that sense. So we'll move on to Morals and Dogma, Lodge of Perfection. The first chapter, which is he goes through each degree here, and this is the first degree, the Apprentice. And we have a symbol for that. It is the 12-inch ruler, the 12-inch rule, and the common gavel. It's this little hammer. And the two here are pictured, the 12-inch rule on the right and the gavel on the left, but they're crossing each other in X pattern, like the skull and crossbones. It forms an X. And that is a Saturn symbol, of course. And again, the pirate symbol that was used with the skull and crossbones, which is actually a symbol, I believe, that was used by the Knights Templar. Which is also a part of this this ancient religion, the same ancient religion that Freemasonry is a part of as well. So we'll go into the section dealing with the first degree here when we come back on the other side. But we're going to pause right now and take a break for station identification, and we'll be right back on the other side. Stay with us.
Thank you for listening to UCY.TV. I'm Jim Funky, the host of Boiler Room Radio. Join me every Wednesday night at 10 Eastern here on UCY.
The brink. We are on the brink, but of what? No one knows. It depends on the reference frame that you're looking at it from. On the Brink with Jeff Weverson.
We have been nuked. Did you know that? Check out Nuked Radio on UCY.TV Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Radchik and Jules. Stay safe, everyone. We have been nuked. Did you know that? Check out Nuked Radio on UCY.TV Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Radchik and Jules. Stay safe, everyone.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.TV.
Catch Before the First Cup with Jules, Monday through Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at UCY.TV/BTFC.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Truth on the Tracks. I'm Brandon Turbeville. Before the break, we were talking about Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. We were talking about the first degree, the Apprentice Degree, and there's a symbol for that, which is the 12-inch rule and the common gavel, as represented here in Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Now, the 12-inch rule and the common gavel, now that's important too. It's the common gavel, because the first three degrees, of course, are the common people. It's also important to mention first, before we go any further, is as I said to begin the show, that many of the Masons that join the lodge, I mean, this does not mean that they're part of any willful conspiracy. That doesn't mean that they are actually part of the conspiracy, that they know the agenda. It certainly means none of that. The first three degrees are generally as much in the dark as the general public, and that is that's evidenced by the fact that many of the higher Masons laugh at the lower Masons for being virtually part of the profane. Many of the Masons, I said, as I know, and those that you may know, are very good people, decent people. But the interesting thing is that many individuals join the Freemason Lodge out of a desire to just be a part of some kind of fraternity, some brotherhood that does good in the community. These are the individuals that almost never pass the first three degrees. The individuals that do join Freemasonry, and of course this is one of the few things that's known about it in the general public, is that once you join the Freemason Lodge, then suddenly doors start to open up for you. You start to get more business at your, you start to get more customers at your business. You start to get discounts when you go to other places of business. Job openings just appear. These windows of opportunity just appear out of nowhere where they didn't appear before you were a member of the Freemason Lodge, the local lodge. That's what's known about it. There are a lot of individuals that join for that purpose alone. These are the individuals who've joined for their own personal gain, who've joined to see what they can get for them, and how far the Mason Lodge can get them professionally or personally, these are the individuals that generally progress even further, because this is almost a psychopathic tendency, and this is what they're looking for up at the top. And keep in mind too that in any Mason Lodge, first generation Mason can only go so far. Second generation Mason can go further, but still only so far. Third generation can go all the way. And this is because this obsession that the elite have, of course, this is a weeding out process, a filtering process, that if you can join the lodge, if you can accumulate wealth, that's one thing. That's impressive, but it's one thing. But if your second generation loses the wealth, gambles it away, drinks it away, snorts it away, then that shows that you're still a member of the profane. You just happen to be lucky. You're not a member of the Lucky Jeans Club. But if you can accumulate wealth and you can maintain that wealth and even accumulate more during subsequent generations, then you're just the type they're looking for, and you might be allowed up at the upper echelons of society. But again, we're going to go back down to the first degree, as I described the symbol, the common gavel, the 12-inch rule, which is a 12-inch ruler. The two are symbolized here. They're symbolized in a cross. It's an X formation. They're crossing one another. An X formation. Of course, X is the Saturn symbol. X is also the symbol of the pirates, the skull and crossbones, remember. And it's also a Saturn symbol as well. So many corporate big banking organizations and even government organizations use the Saturn symbols for their logos, and of course the Skull and Bones Society, of course, using a Saturn symbol, a crossbones, skull and crossbones, for their death cult. And again, the Knights Templar, who essentially were the pirates, used the skull and crossbones as well for their symbol. But Pike here has a whole chapter on the Apprentice, the Apprentice degree. So we'll read a little bit about this and talk a little bit about it. And again, as I mentioned in the first segment, you have to pay attention. It's important to get the book and read it for yourself, so you can see the symbols, so you can see the way that the terms are portrayed here. The first word here is force. He talks about the force of the people. The force is capitalized. So this is something that highlights the concept. This is like God, G-O-D, little g-O-D, and God, capital G-O-D. You know, the definition is different. The word is the same, but the definition is different. The capital G-O-D is a much more powerful, all-powerful deity, a supreme deity. The little G-O-D is something else, obviously inferior, powerful but inferior. So if you pay attention to that in this book, then that's illuminating in a sense itself, is that you could see that the force of the people, the force is capitalized, just as intellect is capitalized, just as morality is capitalized, thought is capitalized, many of these different perceptions and feelings. Truth, for instance, is capitalized as well. So just bear that in mind. I'll try to describe the symbolism as if I can, but again, it's important to get the book and read it. So it says, force, unregulated or ill-regulated, is not only wasted in the void, like that of gunpowder burned in the open air, and steam unconfined by science, but striking in the dark, and its blows meeting only in the air, they recoil and bruise itself. It is destruction and ruin. It is the volcano, the earthquake, the cyclone, not growth and progress. It is Polyphemus blinded, striking at random, and falling headlong among the sharp rocks by the impetus of his own blows. The blind force of the people is a force that must be economized and also managed, as the blind force of steam, lifting the ponderous iron arms and turning the large wheels, is made to bore and rifle the cannon and to weave the most delicate lace. It must be regulated by intellect,
capital I, intellect. Intellect is to the people and the people's force what the slender needle of the compass is to the ship, its soul, always counseling the huge mass of wood and iron and always pointing to the north. To attack the citadels built up on all sides against the human race by superstitions, despotisms, and prejudices, the force must have a brain and a law. Then its deeds of daring produce permanent results, and there is real progress. Then there are sublime conquests. Thought is a force, and philosophy should be an energy, finding its aim and its effects in the amelioration of mankind. The two great motors are truth and love. When all these forces are combined and guided by the intellect and regulated by the rule of right, this is capital R, rule, capital R, right, and justice, and of combined and systematic movement and effort, the great revolution prepared for by the ages will begin to march. The power of the Deity himself is in equilibrium with his wisdom. Hence the only results are harmony. It is because force is ill-regulated that revolutions prove failures. Therefore it is that so often insurrections, coming from those high mountains that domineer over the moral horizon, justice, wisdom, reason, right, built of the purest snow of the ideal after a long fall from rock to rock, after having reflected the sky in their transparency, and been swollen by 100 affluents in the majestic path of triumph, suddenly lose themselves in quagmires like a California river in the sands. The onward march of the human race requires that the heights around it should blaze with noble and enduring lessons of courage. Deeds of daring dazzle history and form one class of the guiding lights of man. They are the stars and coruscations from that great sea of electricity, the force inherent in the people. I'm going to repeat that. Deeds of daring dazzle history and form one class of the guiding lights of man. They are the stars and coruscations from that great sea of electricity, the force inherent in the people. The force inherent in the people. To strive, to brave all risks, to perish, to persevere, to be true to oneself, to grapple body to body with destiny, to surprise defeat by the little terror it inspires, now to confront unrighteous power, now to defy intoxicated triumph. These are the examples that the nations need in the light that electrifies them. There are immense forces in the great caverns of evil beneath society. In the hideous degradation, squalor, wretchedness, and destitution, vices and crimes that reek and simmer in the darkness, and that populace below the people of great cities. Their disinterestedness vanishes. Everyone howls, searches, gropes, and gnaws for himself. Ideas are ignored, and of progress there is no thought. This populace has two mothers, both of them stepmothers, ignorance and misery. Want is their only guide, for the appetite alone they crave satisfaction. Yet even these may be employed. The lowly sand we trample upon, cast into the furnace, melted, purified by fire, may become the resplendent crystal. They have the brute force of the hammer, but their blows help on the great cause when struck within the lines traced by the rule, led by the wisdom and discretion. Of course, you have the hammer and the rule, the common gavel and the 12-inch rule. It is this very force of the people, this titanic power of the giants, that builds the fortifications of tyrants and is embodied in their armies. Hence the possibility of such tyrannies as those which it has been said that Rome smells worse under Vitellius than under Sulla. Under Claudius and under Domitian there is a deformity of baseness corresponding to the ugliness of the tyranny. The foulness of the slaves is a direct result of the atrocious baseness of the despot. A miasma exhales from these crouching consciences that reflect the master. The public authorities are unclean, hearts are collapsed, consciences are shrunken, souls puny. This is so under Caracalla, it is also under Commodus, it is under Heliogabalus, while from the Roman Senate under Caesar there comes only the rank odor peculiar to the eagle's eyrie. It is the force of the people that sustains all these despotisms, the basest as well as the best.
That force acts through armies, and these oftener enslave than liberate. Now again, let me repeat that. It is the force of the people that sustains all these despotisms, the basest as well as the best. That force acts through armies, and these oftener enslave than liberate. In other words, they're using the force of the people to enslave the people. You know the old saying, it's always possible to pay half the poor to kill the other half. They need the people to enslave themselves and to enslave each other. And this is what's happening. He could add, instead of armies, he could add police forces, bureaucrats, you name it. Despotism there applies the rule. Force is the mace of steel at the saddled brow of the knight or of the bishop in armor. Passive obedience by force supports thrones and oligarchies, Spanish kings and Venetian senates. Might in an army wielded by tyranny is the enormous sum total of utter weakness, and so humanity wages war against humanity, in despite of humanity. So a people willingly submits to despotism, and its workmen submit to be despised, and its soldiers to be whipped. Therefore it is that battles lost by a nation are often progress attained. Less glory is more liberty. When the drum is silent, reason sometimes speaks. Tyrants use the force of the people to chain and subjugate, that is, enyoke the people. Then they plow with them as men do with oxen yoked. Thus the spirit of liberty and innovation is reduced by bayonets, principles are struck dumb by cannon shot, while the monks mingle with the troopers, and the church militant and jubilant, Catholic or Puritan, sings Te Deums for victory over rebellion. The military... Again, I've got to repeat that. That's important. Tyrants use the force of the people to chain and subjugate, that is, enyoke the people. They use the people to enslave the people. They use the people's own emotions, their own desires, their own will, their own anger, their own strength, their own weaknesses. They use that to enslave them. They force them to enslave themselves. Then they plow with them as men do with oxen yoked. Thus the spirit of liberty and innovation is reduced by bayonets, and principles are struck dumb by cannon shot, while the monks mingle with the troopers, and the church militant and jubilant, Catholic or Puritan, sings Te Deums for victories over rebellion. Using the religions. The military power, not subordinate to the civil power, again the hammer or mace of force, independent of the rule, is an armed tyranny, both born full grown, as Athena sprung from the brain of Zeus. It spawns a dynasty, and begins with Caesar to rot into Vitellius and Commodus. At the present day it inclines to begin where formerly dynasties ended. Constantly the people put forth immense strength, only to end in immense weakness. The force of the people is exhausted in indefinitely prolonging things long since dead, in governing mankind by embalming old dead tyrannies of faith, restoring dilapidated dogmas, regilding faded worm-eaten shrines, whitening and roughing ancient and barren superstitions, saving society by multiplying parasites, perpetuating superannuated institutions, enforcing the worship of symbols as the actual means of salvation, and tying the dead corpse of the past, mouth to mouth, with the living present. Therefore it is that it is one of the fatalities of humanity to be condemned to eternal struggles with phantoms, with superstitions, bigotries, hypocrisies, prejudices, the formulas of error, and the pleas of tyranny. Despotisms, seen in the past, become respectable as the mountain bristling with volcanic rock, rugged and hard, seen through the haze of distance, is blue and smooth and beautiful. The sight of a single dungeon of tyranny is worth more to dispel illusions and create a holy hatred of despotism, and to direct force aright, than the most eloquent volumes. The French should have preserved the Bastille as a perpetual lesson. Italy should not destroy the dungeons of the Inquisition. The force of the people maintained the power that built its gloomy cells, and placed the living in their granite sepulchres. Does that not sound eerily similar to the state that we find ourselves in now, here in the United States and the rest of the world? The force of the people being exhausted, indefinitely prolonging things long since dead. Much of this only exists in your mind. The things that you're expending immense strength in prolonging. The force of the people cannot, by its unrestrained and fitful action, maintain and continue in action and existence a free government once created. That force must be limited, restrained, conveyed by distribution into different channels, and by roundabout courses to outlets where it is to issue as the law, action, and decision of the state. As the wise old Egyptian kings conveyed in different canals by subdivision the swelling waters of the Nile and compelled them to fertilize and not devastate the land. There must be the jus et norma, the law and rule, or gauge of constitution and law, within which the public force must act. Make a breach in either, and the great steam hammer with its swift and ponderous blows crushes all the machinery to atoms, and at last, wrenching itself away, lies inert and dead amid the ruin it has wrought. Again, does that not sound familiar? The force of the people, or of the popular will, an action, an exerted, symbolized by the gavel, regulated and guided by the action, acting within the limits of law and order, symbolized by the 24-inch rule, has for its fruit liberty, equality, and fraternity. Liberty regulated by law, equality of rights in the eye of the law, brotherhood with its duties and obligations as well as benefits. You will hear shortly of the rough Ashlar and the perfect Ashlar as part of the jewels of the lodge. The rough Ashlar is said to be a stone as taken from the quarry in its rude and natural state. The perfect Ashlar is said to be a stone made ready by the hands of the workman to be adjusted by the working tools of the fellow craft. Now the fellow craft is the second degree. We shall not repeat the explanations of these symbols given by the York Rite. You may read them in its printed monitors. They are declared to allude to the self-improvement of the individual craftsman, a continuation of the same superficial interpretation. The rough Ashlar is the people, as a mass, rude and unorganized. The perfect Ashlar, or cubical stone, a symbol of perfection, is the state, the rulers deriving their powers from the consent of the governed, the constitution and laws speaking the will of the people, the government harmonious, symmetrical, efficient, its powers properly distributed and duly adjusted in equilibrium. If we delineate a cube on a plane surface thus, anyway, he's got a picture of or drawing of a cube where you can see the top side and two of the other sides. We have visible 3 faces and 9 external lines drawn between 7 points. The complete cube has 3 more faces, making 6, 3 more lines making 12, and 1 more point making 8. As the number 12 includes the sacred numbers 3, 5, 7, and 3 times 3, or 9, and is produced by adding the sacred number 3 to 9, while its own 2 figures, 1 and 2, the unit or monad and duad, added together, make the same sacred number 3. It was called the perfect number, and the cube became the symbol of perfection. Yes, the cube is also a Saturn symbol. This is what Muslims run around in Mecca, the Kaaba. You'll see the cube in other areas as well. Produced by force, acting by rule, hammered in accordance with lines measured by the gauge out of the rough Ashlar, it is an appropriate symbol of the force of the people, expressed as the constitution and law of the state. And of the state itself, the 3 visible faces represent the 3 departments: the executive, which executes the laws; the legislative, which makes the laws; the judiciary, which interprets the laws, applies and enforces them between man and man, between the state and the citizens. The 3 invisible faces are liberty, equality, and fraternity, the threefold soul of the state, its vitality, spirit, and intellect. There's some difference of opinion as you move further into Freemasonry as as to the validity of those statements there of the liberty, equality, fraternity, and the legislative, executive, judiciary. This seems to be mainly one of the things that are for benefit of the first degree Masons, the new initiates. So move on to the next section. Though Masonry neither usurps the place of nor apes religion, prayer is an essential part of our ceremonies. It is the aspiration of the soul toward the absolute and infinite intelligence, capitalized, which is the one supreme deity, capitalized, most feebly and misunderstandingly characterized as an architect. Certain faculties of man are directed toward the unknown: thought, meditation, prayer. The unknown is an ocean of which the conscience is the compass. Thought, meditation, prayer are the great mysterious pointings of the needle. It is a spiritual magnetism that thus connects the human soul with the deity. These majestic irradiations of the soul pierce through the shadow toward the light. It is but a shallow scoff to say that prayer is absurd, because it is not possible for us by means of it to persuade God to change His plans. He produces foreknown and foreintended effects by the instrumentality of the forces of nature, all of which are His forces. Our own are part of these. Our free agency and our will are forces. We do not absurdly cease to make efforts to obtain wealth or happiness, prolong life, and continue health, because we cannot by any effort change what is predestined. If the effort also is predestined, it is not the less our effort made of our free will. So likewise, we pray. Will is a force. Thought is a force. Prayer is a force. Why should it not be of the law of God that prayer, like faith and love, should have its effects? Man is not to be comprehended as a starting point, or progress as a goal, without those two great forces, faith and love. Prayer is sublime. Orisons that beg and clamor are pitiful. To deny the efficacy of prayer is to deny that of faith, love, and effort. The effects produced when our hand, moved by our will, launches a pebble into the ocean, never cease, and every uttered word is registered for eternity upon the invisible air. Now, once again, you have to bear in mind that what Pike is doing, you're going to have to read in between the lines here, because this is the first initiate, and he's talking to a population, to an initiate that would have been heavily steeped, most likely, in religion, whether Protestant or Catholic, but definitely Christian in this sense, and most likely Protestant. But he's also talking about, well, there's several different levels to this. He's talking about not just free will versus predestination. That's more of almost a smokescreen, but there are also discussions of energetically based action here, when it talks of prayer and whatever form that takes, with every uttered word being registered for eternity upon the invisible air. This is something that has been discussed recently, too, by some researchers, the power of actually, whether it's prayer or affirmations, or whatever it is, particularly a connection with the deity, that there's energetic connection there. Back to Pike. Every lodge is a temple and as a whole, and in its details symbolic. The universe itself supplied man with the model for the first temples reared to the divinity. The arrangement of the Temple of Solomon, the symbolic ornaments which formed its chief decorations, and the dress of the high priest, all had reference to the order of the universe as then understood. So he's telling you right here that even the old Judaic religion was drawing on another religion that existed long before. The temple contained many emblems of the seasons: the sun, the moon, the planets, the constellations, Ursa Major and Minor, the zodiac, the elements, and the other parts of the world. It is the master of this lodge, of the universe, Hermes, of whom Kurum is the representative, and is one of the lights of the lodge. Again, he's telling you there, too, that's the symbols in the religions. He's not outright telling you that, but he's telling you that he's telling you without telling you, in other words, that these temples, not only the temples of Freemasonry, but the religions contain the symbols of the universe itself. For further instruction as to the symbolism of the heavenly bodies and of the sacred numbers and of the temple and its details, you must wait patiently until you advance in Masonry, in the meantime exercising your intellect and studying them for yourself. To study and seek to interpret correctly the symbols of the universe is the work of the sage and philosopher. It is to decipher the writing of God and penetrate into His thoughts. This is what is asked and what is answered in our catechism in regard to the lodge. He's also telling you that Freemasonry itself is a religion. Every lodge, after all, he says, is a temple. And what has a catechism other than a religion? Well, Masonry has it. And Masonry is a religion. Now, I'm not going to continue any more tonight with Albert Pike, because we're running out of time here, and there's no point in starting the sections where we're going to have to pick up in the middle of it the next time. But I am going to be talking about this for the next several shows. I am going to be talking about we're talking about Pike's Morals and Dogma, because I think it's important, and a lot of people have their access to these books limited for financial reasons, and of course I'm not doing it because of that, but because it's of great interest to a lot of people. I've been asked about it a lot. So I thought I would comment, read some passages out of the book and comment on them as I have the opportunity here in this show. So we'll see how far we get in Morals and Dogma, and we'll pick this up next time. But again, for everybody who's just been listening, this has been Truth on the Tracks. You can catch us here. The times have changed just a little bit. They've been shifted around, but that's fine. Monday night at 9 p.m. is the new broadcast of the show. That time is the same, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ucy.tv. And then, of course, if you want to catch the rebroadcast of that show on Friday nights, that's at 10 p.m. That's just been moved up another hour to 10 p.m. again here at ucy.tv. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Brandon Turbeville. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you here next week.
Thank you for listening to UCY.TV. I'm Jim Funky, the host of Boiler Room Radio. Join me every Wednesday night at 10 Eastern here on UCY.
The brink. We are on the brink, but of what? No one knows. It depends on the reference frame that you're looking at it from. On the Brink with Jeff Weverson.
Been nuked. Did you know that? Check out Nuked Radio on ucy.tv Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Radchik and Jules. Stay safe, everyone.